We're going to wait one more minute, and people are still coming into the waiting room, and then we'll get started. One more minute. Thank you. I'm going to get started. Welcome everyone to the Why We Vote Jack and Jill of America San Diego chapter webinar. We're so delighted to have all of you here present with us today. So I just want to start off with the welcome in terms of where's everybody from? I mean, in the chat window, can you write where you're from in the chat window if it allows you?
Joni, it only allows us to write it privately to you and the other co-host.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
That wasn't the plan. That wasn't the plan, but that's what we figured out was going on. Oh, we've got folks from Pasadena, the San Jose chapter is here, the Oakland Bay Area chapter is here. Oakland, we have someone here from Oakland. So thank you all for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We have someone from the Pomona area. We have someone from the Orange County chapter present, Concerned Parents Alliance, College Bound Programs, North County Jack and Jill. Thank you so much to all of the Jack and Jill chapters that joined us tonight. And welcome to all of our community leaders. All of the community leaders, trusted partners, influencers that we all are familiar with are present and on the line today. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, North County chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We have the Alphas, the Sigmas, the Deltas present, the Kappas, the Boule, the Links, Omega Psi Phi, Phi Beta Sigma, Sigma Gamma Rho, and Zeta Phi Beta sorority represented here tonight. So we're just delighted, again, as I mentioned, to have all of you present. We also have someone that's joined us from the Tri-Valley chapter. So Jack and Jill, California is really showing up tonight. So glad to have you. So we're gonna dive right in. Why are we here? Why are we here? Very, very important. We are here because we are trying to work together to increase voter registration, not just in this election, which is super duper important. I don't have to tell you why it's so important, but this election is super important. So we're trying to increase voter registration in this election, in all elections, subsequent elections. Most of the people on this phone already know that. However, we want to make sure that our young adults and our children are aware of that as well. We want them to create a culture in their head, in their minds, in their heart, anticipation of voting. Okay, so that's a big deal, so that when it's time for them to vote, they're ready to go. Okay. So our objective with this webinar is to, like I said, educate on the importance of all elections. We want to inspire our young folks. And we really want to help you to reach the apathetic voter. I don't think we have any apathetic voters on this phone, but we need to be prepared and poised when we run into someone that might be an apathetic voter. We'll get into more about that in terms of what that means if you're one of the young folks that's on the phone right now listening. So what are our strategies to reach these goals and objectives? This event is the starter. Okay, so this is how we're getting it going. Simple, we're gonna spread the word. So what you learned tonight, you're gonna take back to your, the people that surround you, the people that you know. So all of us are gonna be working toward that common goal of increasing voter registration in not just this election, but subsequent elections. And we're trying to cultivate and promote a culture of voting. We want everyone to be excited about exercising their voice and their right to vote. Okay, so November 3rd, we said is important, but let me give you some data. 100 million plus voters did not vote in 2016. Think about that. Think about how things could be different for all of us right now had that number not have been so high. 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds right now are back home living with their parents because of COVID. So that tells you a little bit more in terms of the young adults, that 100 million plus voters, most of those were young adults, okay? But then think about it like this, 4.4 million 2012 Obama voters stayed home in 2016. So then that's part of that 100 million that I just said. And then more than a third of those were Black. So as you can see, we have some work to do. So this right here is why we're all here. We're here to get smart, and we're here to arm ourselves with what we need to be able to reach that 100 million, at least put a little dent in it, in terms of being able to reach those voters and those folks that did not vote in the last election when it was so very important. We didn't know just how important it was. So let me get into it. As president of Jack and Jill San Diego, one of the highlights, or the biggest highlight for me, is working with our kids. It really brings me joy. You know, it's an organization, as you saw in the Evite, it's an organization that's built with moms that are trying to raise the next generation's future leaders. So it is a delight. It has been a delight to work with these young folks, these young leaders and future leaders on this project. They give me so much joy. I'm so very proud, and they're going to be presenting to you tonight. Okay, what better teacher than for them to learn from me, and then for them to teach the young folks so that they can then go out and teach as well. Okay, so each one teach one is what we're trying to promote here. So I'm going to turn it over to some of our present leaders of Jack and Jill right now, and I'm going to let them take it from here. I'll be joining you back later.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Savannah Johnson, but I go by Drew. I'm an 11th grader at Eastlake High School, and I'm the current teen group president for this San Diego Jack and Jill chapter. And a little something about me is I love playing volleyball, I play competitively, and I also love reading.
Hi, my name is Chrislyn. I'm in the 10th grade, and I attend Eastlake High School with Drew, and I'm teen group vice president. And something a little about me is that I play lacrosse.
Hi everyone, my name is Nala Darkyle. I'm a second-year psychology major from Hampton University, and I served as the vice president for the San Diego chapter from 2018 to 2019.
And good evening all, I'm Michael Johnson, and I'm a sophomore at Grambling State University majoring in biology, and I served as the teen group president beside Nala in years 2018 to 2019. And I'm gonna go ahead and get started and begin with the major dates in history, starting with the years 1820 to 1830. As states were beginning to join the Union, they created their own state constitutions outlining who is and who isn't allowed to vote. Eligible voters were mostly white males who owned property, and unfortunately, only a small number of free Black men were allowed to vote, but no women, no matter what race you were. In 1850, groups like Know Nothings created literacy laws that stated those who wish to vote must pass a literacy test. And since many Blacks and immigrants couldn't read or write, they were denied the right to vote. This was an attempt to keep the vote in the hands of the white male population. In 1866, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution is passed by Congress. It stated that male U.S. residents ages 21 and over will have the right to vote, and any state preventing these rights will lose electors in the Electoral College. However, women still did not have the right to vote. Now, during the same year, the Civil Rights Act of 1866 granted citizenship to all native-born Americans, but still not the right to vote. Now, finally, in 1869, the Congress decided to pass the 15th Amendment, finally giving African American men the right to vote.
In 1869, Louisiana passes these grandfather clauses to keep former slaves and their descendants from voting. As a result, registered Black voters dropped from 44.8% in 1896 to 4% in the 1900s, which is just 4 years later. So after that, guess what happened? If you said other states thought it was a great idea to keep the Blacks away from the polls, you're right. After that, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, and Virginia followed Louisiana's lead by enacting their own grandfather clauses. I just cannot believe the lengths they've gone through to keep us from voting. In 1920, the United States Congress passed the 19th Amendment that finally gave us women the right to vote.
Now, let's fast forward 20 years. In 1940, we found that only 3% of African Americans were registered to vote in the South. So as you can see, the grandfather laws worked. They also incorporated things like poll taxes too. All of these tactics were designed to do what? If you thought to keep Blacks from voting, you're right. Here are some examples of a real literacy test they gave to African Americans. Now, if you look, you could see, do you see how simple these are? Draw a line around the shortest word. We could all do that easy, but back then when African Americans didn't know how to read or write, that automatically gave them the inability to vote because they could not complete the questions.
Now we're going to talk about the poll taxes. In 1964, 20 years later, poll taxes were outlawed with the passing of the 24th Amendment. Here's an example of the poll tax signed today in the red. A tax is a financial charge imposed by the government to usually fund government spending. In 1965, more than 500 nonviolent civil rights marchers were attacked by law enforcement officers while attempting to march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, to demand the need for African American voting rights. Let's take a look at a quick video. It's called Selma 50 Years Later, Remembering Bloody Sunday.
They came with horses. They came with nightsticks. And I was standing and people were running because they were beating me. I did not run, so he hit me at the base of my neck. And I became unconscious.
Photos of a woman tear-gassed and beaten unconscious by Alabama state troopers are among the most iconic images of the civil rights movement. The woman was Amelia Boynton Robinson, a leader of the campaign for Black voting rights in Selma, Alabama, and the first Black woman to seek a seat in the US Congress from that state. She had helped organize a demonstration on March 7, 1965, to protest the killing of a young African-American church deacon named Jimmy Lee Jackson by an Alabama state trooper, and to continue the fight for voting rights. The Selma establishment was known to be among the most egregious in barring Blacks from the polls. But what started as a peaceful protest ended with unspeakable violence. The veteran activist clearly recalls the events of that day, and she recently recounted them to middle school students in Los Angeles.
Under Dr. King, we decided that what we need to do is to have a bill that would let Negroes become registered voters. We were going to march from Selma, Alabama, which is on the river bridge, to Montgomery. I was near the front at the beginning, They came with horses. They came with nightsticks. And I was standing and people were running because they were beating me. And then he hit me on my shoulder. I did not run, so he hit me at the base of my neck. And I became unconscious. They drug me off of the highway. And there I lay. I don't know how long. But somebody said to one of the state troopers, she's dead. So they reported it to Jim Clark, who's the sheriff. And he said, if she's dead, let her alone and let the buzzards eat her.
Images of the atrocities that day sparked shock and outrage across the globe. When Boynton Robinson became aware of the magnitude of the malfeasance that occurred on Bloody Sunday, it intensified her resolve.
So it made my determination to do better and go farther.
Boynton Robinson was present at the White House when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law in August 1965. The episode became known as Bloody Sunday. It sparked worldwide outrage and helped garner support for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. As the 50th anniversary of the event approaches on March 7th, Boynton Robinson is not bitter. Instead, she remains resolute in her belief that although she almost died fighting for freedom, the struggle was worthwhile.
After Bloody Sunday, people began to wake up, and those who have arisen because of our Bloody Sunday, they have excelled.
Despite her age, Boynton Robinson's activism is far from done. The matriarch of the civil rights movement believes there is still a long way to go. She appealed to today's generation to embrace the lessons of the struggle and not take their vote for granted.
And I am still determined that these young people will realize that a voteless people is a hopeless people. If we don't register and don't fight for your rights, then we are hopeless, whether it's an individual or a group of people. We are no citizen at all.
Wow, that was a very touching and empowering video. Mike, how do you feel after watching that?
I thought that it was super moving, and it just shows everything that our people had to go through in the past and how far we've come now.
Yeah, this is very important. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, permanently placing barriers to political participation by racial and ethnic minorities. Prohibiting any election practice that denies the right to vote on account of race, and requiring jurisdiction with a history of discrimination in voting to get federal approval for changes in their election laws.
I reacted to the Jim Crow South with anger. I did not believe for 1 minute that I was a second-class citizen, that I was inferior in any way.
After Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, it was important that the progress wouldn't be overturned. So take a good look here at all the actions that were taken to ensure that we were able to maintain our voting rights from 1970 to around 2011. As you can see, each president after Johnson showed a huge commitment to maintaining the Voting Rights Act, but they were not done. In 2011, a record number of restrictions to vote were introduced in many legislatures nationwide, including photo ID requirements, cuts to early voting, and restriction to voter registration. Many of these states had histories of voter discrimination and were covered under the Voting Rights Act. In 2013, the ACLU represented NAACP's Alabama chapter in the Shelby versus Holder case. In this decision, the Supreme Court crippled one of the most effective protections for the right to vote by rendering the requirement that certain jurisdictions with a history of voting discrimination get pre-approval for voting changes ineffective. States wasted no time enacting potentially discriminatory laws, including Texas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Florida, Virginia, South Dakota, Iowa, and Indiana.
This year, we lost a legendary civil rights leader and champion for the Voting Rights Act. Representative John Lewis died at the age of 80 on July 17th of this year. His legacy of getting into good trouble to oppose systematic racism is still very much alive and will continue on for years. In the last few years of his life, Lewis worked tirelessly to get the Voting Rights Advancement Act to pass into law as a way to guarantee every American's rights to vote, a right compromised by the Supreme Court's Shelby County versus Holder decision in 2013.
And now here's one of John Lewis's most notable quotes on voting. Hi, Miss Darlene from Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Would you do us the honor of reading this quote, please?
With pleasure. Thank you so much. I just told your mom how brilliant and beautiful you all are. I'm just beaming. I have said this before, and I will say it again. The vote is precious. You see, it is our most sacred. It is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in a democracy.
Amen.
More on the legacy of civil rights leader John Lewis. He was a freedom rider, served as a U.S. representative, and was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by my forever President Barack Obama, which was so well deserved. He worked for us and our voting rights up until he passed away.
In July of this year, 48 senators introduced legislation on Wednesday, July 22nd, to restore the Voting Rights Act after it was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013. The lawmakers named the new bill after the civil rights icon John Lewis, a member of Congress from Georgia who passed away just 5 days earlier on Friday, July 17th. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, sponsored by 47 Democrats and Republican Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, will require that any state with a history of voting discrimination within the past 25 years seek federal approval before making any changes to its voting procedures. This is a big deal. The new Voting Rights Act would also mandate that any state, regardless of its history, would have to obtain clearance from the Justice Department or a federal court in Washington, D.C. before making any changes that would tend to burden voters of color, such as strict voter ID laws and closing polling places in areas with large numbers of minority voters. Now I'm going to turn this presentation over to the current Teen Group President, Savannah Johnson. Take it away.
Hi everyone, it's me again. Now we're going to be moving on to our Jack and Jill PSAs, which are our public service announcements. And these next few videos that we're going to show you are going to give you a first-hand look on how Jack and Jill views the current situation and our message to everyone else about it. And I hope you all enjoy.
When I grow up, I'll be a firefighter.
I want to be CEO of a tech company.
I want to be a forensic scientist.
When I grow up, I just want to be alive.
Some people are asking why voting is important for me and my community.
Well, that's simple.
When the people that determine police reform,
educational funding,
and gun laws are on the ballot, so is my life.
So is our life.
When JJOA votes, I can be an anesthesiologist.
A pro body.
Firefighter.
Alive.
I can't breathe.
Has been a final cry of far too many at the hands of our justice system.
So this November 3rd matters, and your vote matters. More than rioting,
more than protesting, more than looting, and more than taking a knee.
If you're an eligible voter, please pledge
right now to do your part to help our collective voices to be heard.
Not by marching this time, but at the polls.
Where your single vote can help us get closer to ending systemic racism
and social injustice. So on November 3rd, vote.
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 Vote. Like your life depends on it, because it does.
It's been a long,
your voice is your vote.
A long time coming, but I know
you have the power to make a difference and to make real change.
This election year is more crucial than ever.
Go out and vote to make sure that you use your right, your voice, and your power.
but I'm afraid to die.
Your vote, our future.
I don't know what's up there.
All right. So now that we have learned and seen about the importance of voting, why do we really vote? And it goes past the obvious answer, like we vote because it's our right to and we're free to do so. But looking past that, why do we really vote, especially in this time? So I'm gonna ask someone in the audience who is a former Jack and Jill participant like all of us, Arrington Jones, and she's gonna help me answer that question.
Hi, I'm Arrington Jones. I attend Xavier University in Louisiana. I'm a freshman. I just graduated out of Jack and Jill. But to answer Drew's question, she's right about we vote because we have the right to vote, but also mainly in the Black community, a large percentage of the Black community did not vote in 2016, which is why we're at the place that we're at now, because they're like, oh, our vote doesn't matter. It's not like it's gonna change. But like right now, the Black Lives Matter movement and the systematic racism that's been going on for years is at a high right now. Like America's finally waking up and understanding that we're not playing around anymore. And we need to actually use our voices, and we need to go to the voting polls, because we can't keep saying we're gonna make a change, but then don't do anything to help make that change. Like the protests are amazing and everything, but going to the polls and voting who you want to be put in that chair to take control over our country and help us fight against racism so we can live and our future generations can live in a place where we don't have to fear anything because of our skin color, where we don't have any more George Floyds or Breonna Taylors or Tamir Rices or Trayvon Martins happening over and over again. And we keep getting the same thing saying, oh, a change will come. It won't happen again, but then it will constantly happen. So I can vote this year, I'm 18. So if you can vote, your vote does matter. Don't think it doesn't matter, because if you have that mentality going in there, nothing is going to change, and we need to make a change now. Gen Z is coming in. This is our generation, our time. We need to take it back and do what we need to do to stop systematic racism in this country.
Wow. Wow. Very, very well said. That was spot on. I couldn't have said it better, better than I imagined. And if anybody else wants to share their opinion on why we should really vote, trying to add on to Arrington's opinion, just one more person, you guys can turn on your mics and give your opinion as well. Feel free to.
Not everybody all at once.
All right, so it seems like Arrington did the entire thing. She said it best. So now we're gonna move on. Thank you, Arrington, for your participation.
So why are we here? What are we doing today, Miss Peaches?
Did you ask me about voter apathy? I'm sorry. What did you say, Chrislyn? I didn't hear. Oh, voter apathy refers to a lack.
Wrong. I mean,
voter apathy.
Yeah.
Voter apathy refers to a lack of interest in participating in elections by certain groups of voters. One side effect of voter apathy can be low voter turnout on election day.
All right, so now we're gonna go over why we collaborate and why we are all here together as a community trying to shoot for the same goal. It's a very important thing that we collaborate, because as a community, like Arrington said, it's our responsibility to get together and to get under the same mindset and under the same point of view so that we can all make a difference together. So this entire Zoom meeting is why we collaborate, because us presenters speaking to you as an audience is going to make a huge difference, because once we tell you what we know, once we tell you what we have learned, you can go out and tell other people what you have learned. You can go out and tell other people to pre-register if they're too young, or to register to vote in general if they are old enough and eligible. So we collaborate because as a community, we can get stronger and stronger and bigger since we are shooting for the exact same goal. And once that goal is made, and once we're strong enough to achieve that goal, it's basically unstoppable. Just like Arrington said, Gen Z is coming in. It's not even just Gen Z, you know, people older than us. Once we all come in together under the same mindset and under the same goal, it's just going to be unstoppable. So that's exactly why we collaborate.
Okay, sorry about that. Did these young folks do a great job or what? Please feel free to come off mute and give them a shout out, because I think they did an amazing job. An amazing job.
It's phenomenal. Thank you, guys.
Great job.
Excellent.
Excellent job. Okay, so look here, we have about, as of right now, we have about 50 days left. Even if you're working another effort, there's more that can be done, okay? We cannot, I gave you the statistics in the beginning. We cannot afford to leave any votes on the table, okay? So now it is time for us to really get busy after this phone call. We've got a lot of work to do. So here we're gonna basically talk about what that's all about. You know, as I mentioned, there were over 100 million people that did not vote in the 2016 election. I told you that 4.4 million people did not, that voted for in the Obama election, did not vote in the 2016 election. And most of those people were Black, okay? So we've got some serious voter apathy out there. Randy Jones, what can you tell us about that? What is your opinion on that?
Thank you. Again, great job, young folks. I appreciate you guys leading us in this effort. But I think a lot of the apathy comes from the fact that we as a Black community really don't understand, you know, how powerful a vote is, one single vote is. And I think someone hit on it earlier when you were talking about the history. The fact that, you know, folks went to so much trouble putting all of these barriers in front of us to keep us from voting. And recall that it was not just a poll tax and, you know, the other voter suppression efforts that they did. They actually lynched and killed Black people who were trying to register to vote. So I tell young people who say that, you know, young and old, who say that my vote doesn't count. And I say, you know, look, the fact that people died so that you could vote should be enough for you to get out and vote. And not just vote in the presidential elections. I mean, some of the reasons that you vote is that the people who have the most votes make the rules, they make the laws. So if you're not making, if you don't have that sort of power, then you get to have some of these onerous laws that were put in the Black codes. They can come back just as easily as they were 100 years ago. But you've got to vote in your city elections. Some people say, well, voting for city council or voting for, you know, the DA or in state elections or things of that are not really important. Those are some of the most important elections to vote in. Vote. I get up every election day, no matter when it is. I like to pride myself of being one of the first people, if not the first person at the poll. And I believe that I'm casting my vote for Black people who couldn't cast their votes in the years past. So voting is important. Voting is our life. It is definitely, we're voting for our lives this year.
Awesome, awesome. Does anyone else have any insight in terms of voter apathy, in terms of running into, because remember, in terms of that 100 million people that sat out of the last election, most of those, as I mentioned, were young folks, okay? And I mentioned that according to a recent poll, 50%, I think I said 50% of young folks or whatever are back living at home. So we have within our reach the ability to get to these young people, these young adults, to get them, encourage them to get out to vote. Does anyone have any insight? Maybe a couple people that would like to mention some things that we could do in terms of trying to encourage more young people to get out and vote?
Hi, this is Dahlia. I'm from the North County San Diego chapter. Hello, everyone. And I just want to say for the young folks is that I think someone alluded to it, Randy, Mr. Jones, that our voices count. Like right now we're doing a lot of census work, right? So we're counting ourselves for the census to make sure that we're visible and that we are getting the funding that we need, the representation that we, you know, etc. It's the same thing for voting. And Mr. Jones, you mentioned the importance of voting in our own backyard. So things that are happening, when we're getting upset about things because it doesn't seem to be applicable to our needs as a Black community, it's because we didn't utilize our right to vote or our voting power to have those DAs that are going to represent how we can be the best, represent us as a group. It's even the school district board candidates. when you're sending your kids to schools and you have board members who aren't even representing your family, your kids, that's another area. The city council, I mean, every piece of that makes, when you're not exercising your right to vote, your voice is pretty much invisible at that point. And so I think it's really important for kids to understand, as you're getting older and learning more about the power. I mean, it's no idea how much power you have cast that vote. Honestly, it's like when you're getting together in school and you're coming together to collaborate and decide, this is what we want at our school, and we're going to do A, B, C, and D to make it happen. Take that idea and like multiply that by 20, multiply that by your city, multiply that by your state, your county, your country. That's what that is. Like, take that small backyard neighborhood feeling and expand that out. And that's how I try to explain it for kids to get motivated.
Right. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that feedback. It's very, very important. I mean, and I want to just add one more thing in terms of for our young folks to think about. You know, I think Randy and Dahlia kind of said it best. I think, you know, Arrington brought it home. But if you think about little things like who gets services first, you know, things that you don't really think about, you know, it's just always good to have your vote go towards someone that aligns with things that are important to you. So it's just really having almost a representative or a friend that can help in terms of making those laws work for your community. So our vote, particularly this vote that's coming up, it's almost important for us to realize what that vote really is about. It's truly about in terms of the change that we need and want to see over our lives. Okay, so I want to thank everyone that has chimed in. Is there anyone that would like to add anything else regarding this, why we collaborate, why we vote, and in terms of voter apathy, the 3 questions that the girls placed out there? Anyone else before I move on to the...
Jonay, can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
One of the things that's very important, and it was disturbing to me in my in the last election, is that I realized that family members around me were not voting. Nieces and nephews were saying that, you know, making excuses, you know, I forgot, or I can't get up and go to, you know, I can't leave work, or whatever the case may be. I'm not accepting that this year. So I'm challenging my family, everyone in my immediate family, to register to vote. That's very important. Register to vote and get out to vote. You know, some of these battleground states that are predominantly African American, you'd be surprised how many folks have already said that they don't intend to vote because there's nothing in it for them. So we've got a lot of work on our hands, and I applaud you guys for taking this first step.
Well, thank you so much. My thing is that, you know, this is a nonpartisan event. We're not trying to endorse any candidate today, but on November 4th, when we wake up, regardless of what happened, we can say that we tried, right? So that is, you know, what this is all about. And I think that, like Randy said, you know, in our own circles, if we can work on our own circles, the young folks in our own circles, we will really be making an impact. So with that said, you know, how do we—
Jonay, can I say something?
Sure,
this is Tracy Norris. I just want to say that the girls, everyone did such a wonderful job, and it inspired me. My great uncle, James Meredith, was shot June 6, 1966, leading a voters march from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. He turned 87 on June 25th this year. But I want to say that, you know, everyone in the family has always been, you know, told to vote. Your uncle almost died marching for your rights, but this brings it further home. It's not just enough for us to vote. We have to talk to other people that we know and get them to register and get them to go to the polls or mail in their ballots. And that really hits home for me. So thank you.
And thank you for sharing. That's really inspirational too. So I didn't know that. Yes, go ahead, Carol.
Yes, hi. The program has been wonderful. The presentation was wonderful. I just wanted to make a comment that when Randy said, yeah, people have all kinds of reasons why they didn't vote. They didn't have time, they didn't do whatever. In California, we have the ability to vote by mail, and every library is going to accept those mail-in ballots. You don't have to put it in the mail and be afraid and think, oh, hey, it's going to be late, they'll never get it in time. No, the public libraries are going to accept that voter registration or the ballot. And so I just think we need to get the word out that I'm with Randy, there's no excuse that I couldn't get to the poll. I was busy, I had to work, I had to do whatever. Take advantage of the mail-in ballot.
Yep. Thank you so
much. And we need to let people know that, yeah, we do need them to register to vote. And especially with our young people that are coming in and don't know really what the next step is. There are some people that we just need to lead by the hand and to show them how to register and go through the whole process. And it also needs to be known that voting in California starts October the 5th. And there's a lot of groups that are saying, hey, we're getting everybody out there October the 5th to vote, whether that's a mail-in ballot, and some folks are just driving in and dropping off their ballots. And that's really good. And it's actually important, as I see on one of your notes, is just, kind of tracking and verifying your registration. I was surprised after voting for like 50 years and over 30 years here in California, I got something in the mail, and when I called to check on it, they were saying that somehow my address was not the same on their records as I was saying, even though I get a ballot every year in a polling place to go to every year. But I went through did some other paperwork. So it is really, really important that we verify, okay, that we are properly registered to vote, so that then no games are played around that end. But let's not wait until November the 3rd to vote. Right. We can vote way before then. And I think that we really need to push to get people out there to do that.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to add one more thing too. So sorry. Also help each other out, especially in California. We have so many propositions and all sorts of things that can be quite confusing. I've like in my circle of friends, I'm elected as the person who actually creates a spreadsheet explaining what it is, the pros and the cons, and to help people to kind of sort through a lot of the jargon. So if you are that person for your network or your family or your friends, help out, because that also helps motivate people to actually vote. When they have someone that they trust to help at least explain what's the pro and what's the con to this particular proposition, or something like that. So that's another thing I would recommend.
Sounds like a webinar in the making.
maybe.
Jonae, I just wanted to say that first, I am just so proud of these young people.
Yes, indeed.
And
indeed,
behind every great young person are fantastic and awesome parents, guardians, or responsible adults. So kudos to the adults that poured into these young people for them to do such a thing. I am motivated by this, and our College Bound programs, we start on Monday, and I am committed to partnering with Jack and Jill, with the youth, with our youth and their youth, to find out what we can do to do some more videos, maybe just 15-second scenarios, whatever. Because the key to this, of course, the adults, those of us that get out and vote, but there are people, the young people, like you said, have just sort of, I'm not voting, my person didn't get in, I'm done. But if they hear it from someone of their own age, I will come across versus, yeah, I gotta vote, my parents nagging me. But young people, you have the power. make a difference in this election. And if you're not old enough to vote, you can pre-register to vote, starting at age 16. So please let us know on, Concerned Parent Alliance, College Bound Programs, what we can do to assist in this endeavor, because we owe it to our ancestors. And I was going to say this, it's very important for all of us to
that's nice.
Vote.
I love that.
Love it.
How can we get one of those?
I can send you the information. Our nonprofit we're selling those along with the t-shirts.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
And, and we just have to be encouraged.
Yes.
And having things like this of what you did as the president and your team and bringing everybody together with you, this is what it's going to take. Reminding all of us our vote counts.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jonae, I have an idea, and it's kind of sparked by what Randy is saying, because I've been trying to figure out how, I can make a, contribution or what have you, make a difference. But I love the concept of talking to family members. I love it because, they trust you basically. And even if we can get our kids involved, talking to the family members, it kind of does, two things. It helps them get to know people that they may not talk to on a regular basis, and they're young, and so they might be able to incentivize, folks who may not have thought about voting, but maybe throw in some numbers behind it, and challenge each individual. Maybe we call it 20-20-20, 20 family members, take 20 people to the polls, get 20 people registered, and each individual, is responsible for their 20-20-20. And that maybe that's the hashtag or something along those lines that you just promote like crazy and get everyone signed up.
I love it. That's a perfect segue. Perfect segue. Go ahead, Doctor.
I was going to say, let's not forget the census. We have got to complete those census forms. If you have not already done so, please do so. You tell your parents, fill out that form immediately.
Love it. I love it. This is a perfect segue. So in terms of our next steps, one of the next steps at the very, very bottom is that we want to do a video. We want to do a series of videos that we can roll out maybe every week, a couple every week with maybe, say for instance, with the Boule and AKA and the key organization, the military sorority. So everybody, basically, we're talking about the 20-20-20, telling people how to do it. So that is what I really, really want to do. And I was hoping by all of us coming together, particularly these leaders, having them all come together, coming up with a great idea that Angelique just came up off the top of her head, that we could do and promote, like she said, like crazy from now until then. So I will be back in touch.
One more thing, Jonae. I think, and I'm nominating Dahlia to do this, I think it would also be helpful to try and incorporate the breakdown of what all those propositions are so that people really know what they're voting on, especially if they've never voted before. To understand that language could be quite difficult.
And you know what? And so basically, I have everybody's contact information in the Evite. So Dr. Darlene, if you could upload how people can get, because I'm getting people saying they want shirts and they want masks. So if you can upload an Evite, I think it's a photo that you're able to put in there in terms of how they can go about doing that. Either that, or I've got everybody's contact information and I'm able to email everybody. And then I'm gonna send out this slide that you see here, because for 2 to 15-year-olds, I mean, basically all of us can get involved now. So if you have a child that's from 2 to 15 years old, you can actually send out letters through the Vote Forward organization. You can also send out postcards. And then there's a game called Win the White House that young kids can get involved in and learn about this political process. 16 to 17-year-olds, register to vote. 18-plus-year-olds, there's all of these links are here in terms of one of the young ladies mentioned in terms of verifying your voter information. So I'm gonna send all of this stuff out. There's a flyer here in terms of being able to maybe put up on your wall, put up wherever, pass out to people, mail to people. I've got some very important dates here for us to remember in terms of Request Your Ballot Day of Action. That's tomorrow, September the 22nd is National Voter Registration Day. October 24th is National Vote Early Day. So it's helpful in terms of what Carol Claire Patrick mentioned in terms of being able to drop your ballots off at the library. I love that. I did not know that. So that is very helpful information, but I want to back all the way back up to Chrislyn, and I want her to tell us about the postcards to the battleground states. Chrislyn, are you ready, my dear? Mm-hmm. We can and then we'll be able to close out. If anyone has anything else, we definitely want to hear from you. So go ahead, Chrislyn.
Okay, so hi guys, my name's Chrislyn, and I volunteered for something called Postcards to Swing States by the Progressive Turnout Project, which is where volunteers will write messages on a postcard to swing states. Swing state is, if you don't know, where votes are equal in terms of the two parties. I'm doing this because voting is a crucial civic duty as a citizen, which can change this country for the better or worse. So as someone who cannot vote, I will try to encourage people for a better future. I'm challenging every family to help me with this, and for every family to commit to at least doing 10 postcards. Again, all you have to do is write a handwritten note with the predetermined message plus postage stamp for 35 cents, and there will be addresses provided to like the houses you send them to. And if you're interested, type your address in the chat and we'll get them sent. We have enough for 40 families if we're doing 10 postcards.
Okay, thank you so much, Chrislyn. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Because that's all we have tonight. We are so very happy that you have joined us. I heard someone speaking. No? Okay. Someone is saying something. But yes, I'm getting a lot of people that want those shirts. So definitely make sure you post that. But I really, really thank you so much for joining us and for committing to working, starting with our families. We're going to kind of brainstorm on how to put together this 2020 thing. All of the community leaders on the phone, we will be in contact with you if you're not in contact with us first, in terms of doing a 15-second, 30-second PSA, in terms of, we'll give you kind of like the prompt, but the sooner the better. So you'll record your video, we'll do the work, and then we'll send them out to everybody. You can just kind of start circulating those. So we want to just start, and get some momentum going. So we're really, really happy, like I said, that you all were able to attend. I need to go back and I need to thank Chrislyn. I need to thank Savannah Drew. I need to thank Michael Johnson, and I need to thank Nala Darkyle and Geneva and Angelique for the hard work that everybody put in terms of putting this together. These girls worked hard. And you can tell that they worked hard because it was so seamless. I'm just beyond proud in terms of the work that Jack and Jill has done and has poured into these girls to see the leaders that you saw before you today. So again, thank you so much for joining Jack and Jill San Diego and for believing and joining forces with us. And you will hear from us soon. Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Dr. Darlene, I'm t-shirts.
What'd you say, Dahlia?
We'll have to talk offline about how I can purchase one of your t-shirts.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I love it.
Email me collegeboundprograms@gmail.
I know who you are. Thank you.
That was great, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Good job, Jonay. Good.
Thank you, Sora. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
And thanks for coming.
I'm glad to be here. Just to see the girls was well worth it.
I know. The last time you saw them, they were probably really small.
Yeah, no. All right. Good job. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.